Could the mother of 16 children pulled from a house in rural Ohio be pregnant again? This news comes as one of the Siders family members begs to get out of jail.
16 children were removed from one house. Some needed serious medical care. Authorities say the family avoided creating government and medical records. And now new details are raising questions about how this family lived for years with little outside oversight. But as a weight loss coach, the detail I want you to focus on is not the shock value of how many children were inside that house. It is what authorities are saying happened to their health and physical development while nobody outside the home was seeing them.
The mother of 16 children pulled from that house in Vinton County, Ohio, is in jail facing 16 felony counts of child endangering. But Elizabeth Siders' problems don't end with her criminal case. She has another issue she's dealing with right now. I've learned that 33-year-old Elizabeth Siders is pregnant again right now as she sits in jail. She's expecting. And I've confirmed Siders hasn't just given birth to 16 children. That number is actually 18, and birth records prove it.
18 births connected to this family history is shocking, but I want to separate shock from evidence. Look, having a large family is not proof of abuse. Being poor is not proof of abuse, okay? And living differently from your neighbors is not proof of abuse. Just so we're clear, the concern is really what authorities are saying they encountered in the home. 16 children were removed from the home, and some needed elevated medical care. And the investigation alleges that the children experienced neglect and abuse from their own family. That distinction matters because otherwise the story becomes the number of children and the condition that the children were in disappears.
The 4 defendants were arraigned on 16 counts of second-degree felony child endangering. They were assessed a $300,000 cash or surety bond per defendant. They were ordered to have no contact with each other as co-defendants. They were ordered to have no contact with the victims.
I'm not going to go specifically into the medical conditions of the kids, other to say that is since the discovery of this situation, as you heard the prosecutor say yesterday, our number one concern has been the physical well-being of those children. All of the children were examined and treated. Several of the children, I believe 7 of them, were taken to Columbus hospitals, and as I told you yesterday, I think at least 2 of them were care flighted. Those children, again, continue. We continue to treat and make sure that they are okay. Their physical well-being is our number one concern, but we also have to be concerned with their mental and emotional well-being as well. And I can tell you, on behalf of the investigative team, on behalf of the prosecutor, the sheriff's office, that is the number one priority, is make sure that these kids are taken care of physically, mentally, and emotionally. And part of that, as you heard the prosecutor say, is making sure that they are placed, that custody of these children is removed from the people who did this to them, and that these kids are placed in safe, loving environments where, again, it's going to take a lot of work to address the emotional harm and some of the issues that are going to result from this. But we need to make sure that those kids are surrounded and loved and supported by people who truly care for them.
According to Ohio Attorney General Office, investigators are saying 16 children were found inside that house. Some were treated and released, while others needed extended medical care and were in serious conditions. And this information was given at the July 1st update, so it's very recent. All 4 adults, Gary, Christina, Gary Jr., and Elizabeth Siders, were charged with second-degree felony child endangerment each, and they have pled not guilty.
With her 19th child. The children that Elizabeth Siders shares with her husband, Gary Siders Jr., are recovering, and at least one of the children is still in the hospital. a little more than a week after they were found as deputies and state agents executed a search warrant at the house on Omer Street. The four Siders family members, Gary Jr. and Elizabeth Siders, and Gary Jr.'s parents, Gary Siders Sr. and Christina Siders, who goes by Lynn, faced 16 counts of child endangering for the conditions the children were living in and the condition they were in when they were found.
This part is where I start thinking about recovery, because the allegations are saying that these children were removed from a really bad environment where they experienced severe neglect. And you can't just give a kid some food and a shower and think, everything's okay, you're back to normal now. No. Depending on what each child went through, they may need medical support, psychological support, education, speech services, and also just simply learning what a stable routine looks like. These children range from 18 months to 18 years old, and the same environment can affect a toddler different than how it'll affect a teenager. But the question that I cannot get past is, how did 16 children become almost invincible?
Very early in this case, and there are more questions than there are answers. One big question surrounding this case was Children's Services, Ohio's Department of Children and Youth, aware of the Siders family? Were they getting health and medical benefits from the state? That is a question I'm working to answer for you. I've learned the family likely moved.
If that reporting is confirmed, it could be one of the biggest parts of this case. Because according to the Ohio's Attorney General's office, they're saying that the family had lived in multiple Ohio counties since 2008, and they didn't establish any government records or any medical records. I think the question is bigger than did anyone know. The question is, who saw them? When did they see them? Do any records exist about this family? And were there any warning signs that were missed, when they were living in all these different counties? I talked about this in the Casper case as well, where, vulnerable kids they disappear from systems where normally adults would see them regularly. So, your teacher would notice abuse. The doctors can notice developmental issues, abuse, neglect. A school nurse could have noticed hygiene changes, the hygiene issues. But when you're isolated, the deterioration is hidden. Nobody sees it.
Remember, there was a search warrant executed at the home for a separate investigation. That's how the children were discovered. That search warrant and affidavit remain sealed for that investigation. But we know that investigation is not related to 4 misdemeanor public indecency charges that Gary Siders Jr. faces.
This is the part that scares me, because according to the Attorney General's office, the police executed a search warrant that was a part of an ongoing investigation. And that's how they ended up discovering the 16 kids inside the house. But the real question is, if they had not executed that search warrant, when would these kids have been, discovered? Like, when would have they been seen? According to reports, 7 of the children needed medical attention. According to officials, 7 of the children were in life-threatening condition, and they were taken to Columbus Hospital. And according to the state, some are still in serious condition. The timing of intervention can change a life, can save a life, and it can change a child's future. This is where my perspective as a weight loss coach comes in. Because when people hear the word nutrition, they automatically think about weight loss. But nutrition is way more than that. Nutrition has to do with whether a baby has enough energy and nutrients to develop a working brain. Nutrition impacts whether they're growing healthy bones, they're growing muscles, and they're developing as a child. Children are not miniature adults on diets. No, their body is actively developing. So when authorities describe children with severe developmental and medical needs. The question is more than just, well, what did they eat? I want to know, were they getting food consistently? Were there any deficiencies developing? Are there any developmental issues that may have worsened because they didn't get, access to medical care and services, and they were isolated? I want to know, how long had their bodies been signaling distress? And really, those questions are for the medical team that are treating the children. But from a coaching perspective, this is why, nutrition and health is about so much more than aesthetics or how you look.
Sider's children who've been released from the hospital have been placed with foster families. Some of the children remain hospitalized.
The latest reporting says the children are now safe and they are in foster care, right? So that is a breath of fresh air. I'm glad they're out of that environment. And this is why I don't want this story reduced to a terrible house tour. Because, the condition of the house matters, but the children are the real story, And recovery is not a before and after picture. For some children, rebuilding your trust, your education, your communication skills, and just having a healthy routine, that could take years.
But some of the older Siders children were actually active on social media. They have accounts where they displayed images from anime and even used cats as their profile photos. But the children never posted any photos of themselves, which raises even more questions. Why were the children on social media and given phones to access it?
This is one of those details that creates more questions than answers. Because yes, a child can be on social media scrolling and still be socially isolated in real life. And you could be on social media scrolling all day and still not have any adult, any reliable, trusted adult that you could turn to, somebody that knows what's going on and somebody that you can call on to help you out. And I personally would be careful about reading too much into, the profile pictures, or whether or not they had profile pictures of themselves, because I feel like the more important question is, do they have access to any adults that could have helped them outside of the home? Anybody outside of the home that could have helped them? Grandma, auntie, sister, neighbor? Was anybody around?
Since the last time we talked, we've confirmed that indeed these 16 children are the offspring of both Elizabeth and Gary Jr. She's been pregnant nearly every year since 2008, and they had another set of twins that were born conjoined and then passed away shortly after birth. So they have a total of 18 children.
New reporting has added some complicated context around Elizabeth Siders, because according to her attorney, they're saying that she was married to Gary Jr. in 2008 when she was 15 years old and Gary was 18 years old at the time. And shortly after they got married, they had their first child. Her attorney has publicly argued that they should look into whether Elizabeth herself was a victim in this case. And they're also pushing back on, the investigators' description of the case, where they're saying that the children were all confined to one small room in the house. Elizabeth is an adult defendant, and her attorney pushing back doesn't resolve the allegations that are being made against her. She was charged with 16 felony counts, and she has pled not guilty. But two questions can exist at the same time, right? Because what I want to know is, what role did each adult have, or what responsibility did each adult have in regards to the kids? And what happened? What happened to cause this family to end up in such a neglected situation? What caused all of this? And to be completely honest, we don't have enough information to even answer the second question. And I'm not going to fill the gap with just internet speculation or conspiracy theories.
So she's had a total of 18 children. There is some talk out there, and we're working to confirm this, that she may be pregnant right now. We don't know that for certain, but there is some discussion about that. So That's a lot of children, and I'm trying to figure out what the motivation would be to have so many children in this day and age, especially if you can't afford to take care of them.
Yeah, well, before I talk about that, let's just point out there are special problems that arise from a pregnant inmate. I've both as an acting judge and a magistrate and a prosecutor, I've seen situations where we have pregnant inmates, and often jails won't take them. They present their own unique health problem that most rural jails are simply ill-equipped to handle. So she may get bond on that basis alone. I don't know. She's obviously differently situated if, in fact, she's pregnant.
Hey, Law and Crime did mention that there are rumors that Elizabeth is pregnant right now in jail, but I couldn't find any information online to confirm that fact. So as of right now, I would just treat it as a development in the story, but not as a proven fact, but not an established fact. The only facts that I can confirm with you is what was reported from birth records that said that Elizabeth in 2022 gave birth to 2 girls, and the twins died shortly after birth. The defense is now pushing back publicly, right? Her team is pushing back. Elizabeth's attorney says he has not seen evidence proving the children were physically trapped in a 12 by 12 foot room or forbidden from going outside. Officials, meanwhile, have described severe unsanitary conditions, medical neglect, lack of schooling, extreme isolation. Those competing claims are exactly why I am going to keep separating confirmed updates, official allegations, and defense arguments. The children's medical records, education history, agency contacts, and testimony gathered during the investigation may become some of the most important evidence in this case. The newest major update is about scale. Associated Press reporting says Vinton County is seeking help to care for 16 siblings and prosecute the case. The Ohio Department of Children and Youth is expected to approve a $1 million emergency fund, and placement costs for the children could exceed $850,000 per year. That is not an argument against spending the money. It shows what long-term intervention actually, is actually required. 16 children may need housing, healthcare, education, assessments, therapies, transportation, case management, and stability at the same time. There is no instant fix for alleged years of neglect. Rescuing the children is an amazing way to start, but rescue is the beginning, not the end. Here is where the case stands as of July 10th, right? All 4 of the defendants have pled not guilty, and the case is making its way through the legal process and system. According to investigators, additional charges may be added as the case progresses. The prosecution is seeking outside help, and it's being reported that 3 prosecutors from Ohio's Bureau of Criminal Investigation are assisting with this case. So Gary Siders Sr. has been released from jail on his own recognizance, and he is also receiving medical attention. Another thing is the judge has ordered a competency evaluation for Gary Siders Sr. And honestly, when I did see him in the picture, that was the first thing that popped in my head. Is he competent to even stand trial or face these charges? But really, that is a separate medical and legal issue, outside of whether the current allegations against the other defendants can be proven. This case is moving very fast. It's moving through the system very quickly. My biggest takeaway as a weight loss coach is, the body keeps a record of the environment that it lives in. And not only through body weight, but, through growth. Muscle growth, developmental growth, dental health, skin, your hair, and hitting those developmental milestones. When we talk about health, especially children's health, we can't reduce everything down to a number on the scale. In Casper's case, the headline warning sign was the weight gain. In this case, officials are investigating alleged deprivation, lack of schooling, developmental issues, health issues, and an environment where, a living condition that affected 16 children. Different bodies can respond to unhealthy environments differently. One child might end up overweight while another child might be underweight. And another person might just appear normally sized. And there's no, while experiencing deficiencies, untreated illnesses, neglect, and there's no signs. Another child may appear like average size while still experiencing neglect, developmental issues, untreated illnesses, all at the same time. This is why health has to be observed as a pattern and not so much as a number. This is why health, should not be observed as just a number, but as a pattern. And children depend on adults to notice the pattern and act on it. 16 children are now reported safe and in state care. The criminal case is still developing and the defendants are presumed innocent until proven guilty. But, major questions still remain. Who saw these children over the years? What medical care did each child receive? What schooling or services existed? What agency contacts occurred across the countries where the family lived? What will the medical records show? And what responsibility does the evidence ultimately establish for each adult? Those are the questions that I'll be looking out for as the case develops. Let me know in the comments which parts of the case stood out to you the most, and please remember that this story is centered around 16 real children, so please keep it respectful in the comments. Subscribe.